Hey guys, back again with another video update part 2 to the Axum Dp. Couple of things that I've added over the last few days. You can probably already see it. I've got a brown saddle. It's just a cheap generic saddle I picked up off of Amazon. But it feels a little bit more comfortable than the stock seat, and it kind of matches my sidewalls. It's a little bit off from being a perfect match, but went with a brown saddle. And I also got a seat post clamp that's not quick release. This is 34.9 millimeter, and we'll get into the specific parts and stuff. I'm going to post a list of all the parts that I've done with this video. I also updated that list on the previous video, Axum Dp Update, because there was a couple of folks asking for parts list, and I had just been too lazy to put it on there. I finally was able to get to it this afternoon, so that is updated, and it'll be pretty much the same list on this video. I do have a viewer request. Our friend Ulysses, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, Del Toro, I'll put the name on the screen here. They were asking about the chain kind of jumping when backpedaling, when you're in like the first gear or the lowest gear, and I did experience that with the stock drivetrain, so the stock Cassette, the stock Derailleur. I don't have those parts on, obviously, but he wanted me to demonstrate a video of myself pedaling backwards in first gear, and I'm not having any chain jump or any kind of, you know, warning that the chain is gonna jump to the next gear, potentially fall off. I know exactly what he was talking about though, and I think that it has to do with the chain length. It might be slightly too long, and then there might not be enough tension on the cage here. I experienced that with my GT Aggressor Pro, even with the aftermarket parts, so an upgraded drivetrain. And I found that I had a little bit too much slack in my chain, so that could be causing it. But just demonstrating here for y'all that I'm not experiencing that behavior on my current setup. You know, just play around with your adjustment. You might have some barrel adjuster here. There's definitely one up at the front at the shifter. Adjust that. That'll adjust your cable tension here. So you might be able to kind of tension this up when it's in those lower gears. And if that fails, you may be able to get away with removing a link out of your chain to kind of tighten up any slack that you might have. So that's what I would suggest as far as getting that fixed. You could also potentially adjust your tension here on the cable by loosening here. This is a real finicky system, but once you get it, you'll be able to adjust it better on the fly, depending on what's going on. You'll be able to troubleshoot it. It took me a while to get in a position where I was feeling comfortable with making my little micro adjustments. You know, so sometimes it feels like it's right when you're here on the stand, and then you actually go out and have weight bearing down on the system, and it behaves a little bit differently. So it's just a bit of trial and error. The seat post clamp is a 34.9 millimeter. This is from ENLEE, and I'm not sure if it'll show up there, but it's, I think it makes it look for a little bit cleaner, you know, without the quick release, because now that I've got the dropper, this is my lowest setting that I want it to be, so I'm not going to be adjusting this part. And you know, obviously with the dropper I can adjust here on the fly. So there's that. I added a couple of different bottle cages. These ones are sort of a plastic. We'll see how well they hold up. They looked a little more slick than the traditional aluminum cage. I wanted something a little bit different. Plus these are a little bit more flexible to get my water bottles in and out. Just a personal preference. Suruid bike water bottle cage. I'm not sure how to pronounce a lot of these names. But it comes in a 2-pack. I believe it was like $8.99, you know, $10 maximum. I'm not quite sure. Everything, I've been able to take it out, you know, just here in my neighborhood on our little fake dirt trail, whatever you want to call it. Basically the housing development behind our neighborhood that's currently under construction. Everything's holding up great. I've got the derailleur all fine-tuned. I'm not having any shifting problems. The brakes, again, the zoom brakes, working just fine. I did have to switch the cables from left to right because they came backwards. Haven't had any experience any leaking or anything, so obviously I did something right. Tubeless is still running great. Haven't had to you know, redo this at all. There's no tires falling off or anything like that. I do need to check the pressure on these. It feels a little squishy, but I haven't rode in a few days. This one feels pretty solid still, but this one feels a little extra soft. Added the Texas sticker there, Austin. All my bikes so far have had some sort of local representation. The one thing that I did have trouble with, and this was completely user error, I believe, when I was changing the pedals, and this is captured in one of my ride videos that I did last week. I think that what happened is when I was changing out the cranks from the stock to these IXFs, I probably got distracted with something, whether that was the kids or I just, you know, forgot, whatever the case may be. I think that what happened, I tightened this, pulled this all together, and then I neglected to tighten these pinch bolts here. And while I was on my ride, I noticed that my shoe felt like they weren't gripping these pedals, and these are the Rock Brothers. I thought that maybe I just wasn't used to these pedals because the last couple of bikes I've had the Fuker pedals, and I just thought that I wasn't gripping. I thought there wasn't enough pegs on these, or cleats, whatever these are called, on the pedal, and I was just having some problems slipping. Well, it ended up being the crank was actually loose on this side, and what had happened is eventually it pushed this crank cap out and stripped out the threads. I've got a new piece, an aluminum one, on order. It'll be here this weekend coming up to replace this, because this is just kind of sitting here now. But this was tightened in, and the pressure that I was putting on the pedals ended up causing it to force its way out, stripping out the threads. The pedal probably, or the crank rather, should have probably came off. Fortunately it didn't. Probably could have resulted in a pretty bad crash. Probably would have made for a better video as well. So thankfully I was able to catch it, and I found this piece on my way back around. And you know, it's in there now, and I've rode it a couple times with caution now, but I made sure that these are tight. These aren't going anywhere. So that's it for this video. Again, I appreciate everybody watching the videos, and I'll continue to make more as things progress. I'm not sure where we're gonna go next. I think that we're pretty much, like I said, in a final phase here. Thanks again for everybody for watching, and all the comments are great. Keep them coming. And I'll be able to hopefully answer some of your questions if you have any.